Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a lighthouse with a rocky seashore with some waves crashing on it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll show you step by step how to do it from start to finish. This is part of our beginner series, so it's actually easier than it looks. Got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's going to chat tonight for our live show, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, I'm going to be using a 9 by 12 inch canvas today. This is the Fredrix mixed media canvas board. They're just made for water paints, so watercolors and acrylics. So we'll be using acrylics tonight on here. I haven't done anything to the canvas. That comes pre-prepped and ready to go. Let's go over our brushes. I've got a few brushes that you're going to need. So some sort of stippler that I've got a Deerfoot stippler. Wow, that was a ugly noise, wasn't it? I've got some Deerfoot stipplers in different sizes here. They're kind of a angled round. So the top of them are round, but the sides are kind of angled. So either that or like the Willows blenders. These ones in the blue handles are the Princeton Select. And these are the VelvetTouch from Princeton. All of our brushes are Princeton, and they're our brush sponsor. So awesome brushes. We love them. And thank you to them and Fredrix for our canvas and brushes today. Anyhow, the 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch VelvetTouch blenders, or you can do some of it with the fan brush, but I think you'll do better if you have some sort of a stiff bristled brush. You can use, in a pinch, you could also use like a hog bristle brush or something like that if you have one of those. Those are kind of the cheaper white-ish brushes. This is a synthetic hog bristle, so it's got the same qualities, only it doesn't get soggy in water like a hog bristle will. This is a number 4 in the Aspen short filbert. So any of these we'll be using for the wave splashing, so that'll be a big part of the video tonight, so you're going to need something that can do those. You're also probably going to want to have either a fan brush or a toothbrush that can do your splattering. So stippling for this part and splattering with the toothbrush or whatever. And then from some of our details, you're going to want like a round brush in different sizes. I've got the green handled 6100 series here in the number 8 bright and number 4 filbert mostly for blocking in our large areas on here. And then I've got some rounds in various sizes that we'll be using as well, possibly. I'll mention them as we paint so that you know what we're using. I also have my angle brushes, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna need those or not. I always kind of set them out just in case. For the background, it'll also be helpful to have a large flat brush. So let's go ahead and get going here. Since it's a Tuesday night.
Show the colors.
Oh, yes. Got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow medium, phthalo blue green shade, ultramarine blue. This is light ultramarine blue here at the end. That's just ultramarine blue plus some white. It's pre-mixed. Dioxazine Purple and Quinacridone Magenta, titanium white. This is zinc white that is fluid, so that's going to be for our splattering. And then this is our gloss glazing liquid, just in case we want to have some glazing in our sky, mostly probably. All right, let's mix up a few colors for our sky, and that way we can kind of move quickly. That's one of the things that we talked about on one of our very first lessons in sky. It was, I guess, number 2 video that we did in this beginner series, where we talked about having your colors prepared ahead of time when you're doing things like your sky, so that you can move quickly and blend it really quickly between colors and not have to stop to blend to mix a color. So I'm going to get just a little bit of orange, and it's probably 1 part orange to like 20 parts white. It's just a tiny bit of orange. You're not going to need a lot. I'm going to start out with a little bit here, and then I'm going to add a little bit more to it, leave kind of this lighter version here, and pull off some off to the side here and add a little bit more of the orange to that. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing well.
Mark got his #2 vaccine today, so we're watching him for zombie traits.
Either that or walking on the wall and ceilings. I'm hoping for the latter. I was promised that.
Okay, were you? I think somebody sold you down the river there, hon.
What? I got it off of Facebook.
It must be true.
It must be true.
Right, adding Quinacridone Magenta to this one. So this is just like a light version of the orange, and then a little bit darker version. And then this one has got the magenta. And I am going to add just a little bit of the orange to this as well. So I've got the magenta and orange here for kind of a salmon pink color. Okay, so I think that those will be good to go. And then I've already got the pre-mixed blue, and so I'll be dipping into that as well. And I'll probably need more than that, but you get the idea. All right, it's actually not a huge area of the sky. Actually, before I do that, let me talk about the drawing here. I kind of pre-drew out the mountain, but it's going to be right about on the third here. If you kind of split your canvas into 3 parts, the bottom part here, which is actually so dark that you can't really see it, goes all the way from about an inch up from the bottom, kind of wiggles up and around and dips back down and up, and then it goes to about the third-ish, right this way, somewhere in there, and then it angles up to the top right there. This part splits this in half just about, kind of, and comes down like that. And then there's another little bit that comes up from about the halfway mark and curves down in front and goes down like that. Okay, then our water is going to be just underneath this, so this mark right here, and we're just going to kind of have some waves splashing up on it there, and we're going to have some waves splashing up on it right here, and right in here too, and then a lot of them right in here. So I'm not really drawing those parts in, though. We're going to do that later. Then we're going to have a little separation, which is some water right here, and then our main mountain where our rocky cliff here with our lighthouse on it is going to be like right on the third here. It's kind of the peak of it. So if you want to mark that out, it's also just above the third this way. So the bottom part of it is kind of on the third this way, and then it angles up just slightly. So it's got this kind of slight angle that way. And then on that third there, it angles back down this way. And it kind of comes straight down, goes back up a little bit, and then curves down to there. Okay, so that's our rocky cliff, and then our lighthouse is going to live right in here, but we're not going to draw it in yet because we're going to do the sky over the top, and we don't want to have to draw it in twice. So we'll just draw it in when we're ready for it. All right, I'm going to pull off. I'm just pulling off the paint off of that. And if you get your knife like this and it's full of paint and you need it clean, you can use alcohol. Rubbing alcohol will get that off. All right, so I'm going to grab some of the blue. I'm going to start out with some white in my brush. I had a little bit of pink there, which is fine. White, blue. I think that's about the right, yep. Want it fairly, these are kind of candy colored sky. It's such a pretty sky. So we're just going to go across here quickly, starting at the top, and actually forgot to do this. Let's go ahead and spray it really good with water. That is going to give us, it opens up the fibers of the canvas and makes the paint go on smoothly. So I got across there and I was like, this is not going on. And I was like, oh yeah, I did not spray it. Makes a big difference. It really does. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more of that darker blue. I think I want a little bit darker up at the top here. Okay. You don't want this blue too dark because we're going to be using oranges as well, and the blue and the orange would make a brown, so we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to add some of that pink to it down here and make a purple for the bottom area there, going across just right above the water. And I'm going to go a little bit darker, actually. I'm going to get a little bit more of that, maybe a little bit of straight magenta. There we go. And I've just added it to the corner of the brush, so you can see how it's made this kind of ombre from the dark to the light. So if I just load it on that corner and blend it out on my palette, then when I go to my canvas, I automatically have that blend already there for me. And then I'm going to just kind of come up and do some clouds across too with this, just using that kind of the edge of my brush through those. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and blend that out. Maybe get a little bit more white and just blend out that purple, and go across here with that purple and just make sure that I have it up in here some. Anytime you're introducing a new color, you really want to make sure that you have it in other places. Although this blue and this magenta that we used for that is already up in here anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal. But I do want, let's go ahead and grab a little bit more blue and a little bit more of that dark color. I'm just going to go all the way across the top with it. Okay, there we go. Now, ideally, I'm going to clean my brush out. Try not to make my whole water go color. Actually, let's just go ahead and grab a number 8 here. It won't be as big. It won't cover as much area, but we can blend it through. We'll use it quickly. So I'm going to get a little bit more of this purple and just start mapping out. So right underneath this big part of the cliff, there is this big cloud right here. So I'm just going into this wet paint. If it's dried already, that's fine. Just do it in the same spot. Just go over the dried paint. With this, it might be helpful if you had a little bit of this blue sky still wet. So you might just save a little bit of it as it's drying. You know, just keep it wet as your canvas is drying. Keep this part wet so that you can continue to use it later. But let's go ahead and then grab the pink here. And what I'm also kind of doing is lifting a little bit of that blue. Since it still is wet, when I'm adding these new colors to it, it's gonna lift a little bit of that color or blend with it a little bit. And let's get this orange, and I'm gonna go right up to the top here. I'm gonna blend in my cloud really close to the top. And I'm going to wipe it off so that I'm not mixing the blue into what I'm doing here. So I want to be laying down this orange on top of this blue. It is going to mix a little bit, but that's okay. It's not turning an ugly color here. It's still pretty good. But wiping it off will help me keep that kind of brighter orange that I want. Getting some of the brighter color. Blending that in. You okay?
Just have a tickle in my throat here.
Oh.
Perfect timing for it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, getting some of that pink and going just underneath these orange clouds with the pink. And just blending everything side to side so that it kind of, it's just a soft clouds. And these clouds are really kind of blended out on top and bottom. They're not like super hard clouds as far as they don't have harsh, lines. It's just pretty much like bands of color across the sky. So we're getting away with just kind of doing these lightly. I think that that's about all I'm going to do right there. I might get some of this blue here. I might do another layer. I want a little bit brighter up in here, but it's too close to get a little bit brighter pink here. It's pretty close to being dry, and if once it's starting to dry, you don't want to mess with it. So it's getting a little sticky, so I'm going to have to back off here and just let it dry. We can work on the water and then come back to this. I don't want to really work on the mountains until we get the sky done. All right, so down in the water, let's just go ahead and leave this. I just mixed up a little bit brighter Quinacridone Magenta and orange there for this little area right there. And I think I'm going to use it again because I can see my clouds are way too pale. So I need that brighter color in there. All right, in our ocean color, we're going to use Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green, and I'm sorry, Phthalo Blue and Burnt Sienna. That's going to make this dark aqua color. I'm going to use it down here in my water area. And once I get that color on across, I'm going to get some white. And I'm going to blend that in. And again, this is going on top of the rocks, so we're going to have the rocks in here before we finalize this, but this is just going to be kind of the start of this color for us. Getting more of the white. I'm going to do the water back here with this lighter version.
Got a real quick question. When you're doing the sky, you were using the number 8 brush?
Yes, that's this brush that I'm using, 8 Bright.
8 Bright in the Aspen series? No, not Aspen.
6100 Summit series.
6100. Okay, thank you.
And I want some of the really dark blue down here. So even though I've added some white to it, I want some areas with the darker blue. Okay, that's good. Just like that. Nothing fancy. I'm going to have you dry this for me, hon. It's not dry enough. Thank you. All right, while he's doing that, I'm going to clean out this brush. We talked about cleaning out brushes in one of our videos. I can't remember which one in this beginner series. I think it was either the second or the third one. And I showed you how I go about cleaning them. But if you are working on, a project that's going to take you a while and you don't have time to clean your brushes out right away, the best thing to do is just kind of get them mostly clean in your water. So get as much of the paint out as you can, pushing it against the side of the cup. And then wring it out, but don't take all that moisture out of the paintbrush. Leave a pretty good amount in there. You don't want to leave it setting in your water because it will crack the handle. The moisture gets up through into the wood, and then it cracks the paint. And it can kind of loosen up the glue and make it act weird and warp it and that kind of thing. But then just kind of set it off to the side on a paper towel and keep it damp as you're working. And that way you won't have any issues. Let me show you this one too while we're talking. I mentioned the alcohol, but might as well do it while we're waiting for Mark to dry our thing. I'm going to put some alcohol in there and just let it set a minute. No, I didn't leave it long enough. There we go. You can even just set it inside and let it soak in there. I didn't leave it on there long enough when I was showing you. Let me go ahead and dip it.
getting attacked.
By squeaker monsters.
Yes.
Thank you, hon.
You're welcome.
All right, I swear it works. It's just not working for me tonight. It's hilarious. I'm like, here, just put that on there and it comes right off. It really does come right off. I don't know why it's not working. I think I might have gotten something else on there. All right, let's go back to
a regular scheduled program.
yeah. I'm going to get the Quinacridone Magenta and Cadmium Orange here, that mixture, that brighter mixture, mixing it in a little bit to that white version of it. But I'm going to go back in now and go up under here and really add some brighter. Get some of the orange. See how it's kind of blending side to side, just kind of keeping that and working that wet edge so that blends in a little bit. And then I can switch to a brush like my Deerfoot, and that way I'll get kind of a fuzzier look, and I can blend these in too. Kind of gives a softer look to it. I'm going to get getting that lighter orange that I want on the top of these clouds now, and just kind of blending across the top where I want it the lightest, and then blending down into that wet paint that's below. So this color that I just put on is still wet, and you can do this in smaller sections too, so you can just do like a small section here and then kind of blend it into the next section. You don't have to do all the way across like this, because it can, you know, you run the risk of it drying over here before you get the chance to blend it out. But so just work quickly. And then I've got some of this blue over here. Just going to use a little bit of that. So if you have a little bit of your blue from your sky color, right, then I can go up underneath here and just kind of blend it in nicely, or over the top, either one. I'm going to get a little bit of white, this light orange, and just right in here there's an area that's really bright, so just kind of get that in there. Using the head down so that I can kind of scrub it side to side this way. Okay. Turning it over and kind of using it like a circular scrubbing motion. Getting that lighter orange right at the top. And anything that like looks kind of streaky, I'm just kind of using the bottom of the brush here and just kind of turning it into a, meant to do that, you know, kind of blending it in that way. So I'm getting some of this lighter pink now. I'm going to do that over the top up here. These two almost kind of meet up, so I'm kind of got this hard line up here, which I really don't want it to be that hard. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Kind of change up the shape of it so that it's not such a straight line. Okay, let's get a little bit of that bright orange. Do it back here, maybe a little bit of the brighter color right on that horizon line at the top of that cliff. Just like a little bit of that bright orange peeking through. Very pretty, very like dreamy candy clouds. Getting some of that purpley color. Let's do some brighter purple right at the bottom there, and then a little bit more of that kind of magenta orange in the middle. I just wiped it out so I didn't have too much. I mixed the color. When you mix the color, you end up with a lot more color in your brush, so it's good to kind of brush off some of that extra sometimes. I'm gonna do that here too, just to help control how much you have on your brush. Because when you're doing clouds, you really don't want a heavy hand. You want to kind of go slowly with your color build up and kind of slowly build up your intensity of your colors. So we kind of started with the midtones, and now we're going with the deeper and the lighter colors to get that intensity that we want. But I think that's pretty close to where we want to be on this. I do have a lot of like bright blue up here. I think I want a little bit more magenta or kind of purpley color. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that magenta blue mixture and some glaze. And I'm just going to kind of go over some of this up here with it, just to kind of add a little bit of that purple glow to my sky at the top. And in the middle here too. Okay, I think we're good. I know we went quickly over that, but we've done clouds in a couple of these series lessons, so if I went too quickly this time, you can maybe check out some of the other ones. I'm trying to think of the one that we did with the landscape with the tree. I think I kind of went over the clouds a little bit on that one too. So
someone in chat said it reminds them of the sky for the Utah video.
Yes. Yes, the one with the purple mountains, maybe.
Majesty.
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry.
I've painted so many now. All right, let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and start painting our mountain. I think we're good on here.
I can zoom in for you.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I just was doing it
Are
quickly.
you saying you don't need me?
No, I wasn't.
No, I think that was a hint. Sad music plays in the
You're
background.
Does that mean I get to go play video games?
What?
No, it does not. He says hopefully. All right. Dioxazine Purple, Burnt Umber, and I'm sorry, that's not Burnt Umber. Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Umber. Right here, this mixture. And we're going to use that as our main mountain color. Really pretty purple. I like to use purple in rocks. I think it's prettier than just plain old black. We will use a little bit of black in here, but the purple really adds, and especially since we have all of these colors in our sky, it really adds a beautiful tone to the mountain, to the rocks. And the more of the burnt umber and blue mixture that you add, the more gray it'll become. So let me see where my I don't know where my rocky cliff is anymore. It's somewhere in here. I think I said it halfway. So this is kind of the bottom of it here somewhere, and then it goes up slightly to about right there. And I'm kind of tapping so that I'm getting kind of a fuzzy edge along that top there. So like a little bit of mountain kind of sticking up right there. Sticking out, and then goes down like that. Okay.
Do you know where lighthouses get their names from?
I don't.
The big light at the top.
I thought that was like a serious question.
It could be.
Have you ever been in a lighthouse? Okay, I'll say this. Have you ever been in a lighthouse that somebody actually lives in?
Well, obviously you want me to ask you that question. So I think I know your answer to that question. My answer is I can't remember, so I don't think so.
No. I had a girlfriend in Nahant there. She lived. Her room was like a circle. It was pretty cool.
So her family was the lighthousekeepers? Oh,
I
cool.
guess, yeah. Yep.
Very cool. I think they work for the Coast Guard here in the United States. Somebody fact check that because I'm not sure on it.
All right, using black here. Gonna do a little bit of dark just in some of these cliffs here, and I'm just pulling down at an angle. So kind of just the rock is kind of, that cliff face is kind of angling this way. So I'm just going to use this black in the darkest areas. Kind of going at an angle right there. All right, then let's go ahead and use the black. Let's go ahead and add some blue to it. Ultramarine blue and black. And let's use that down here. Just so we have a different tone, it kind of helps. These are actually, you know, pretty blended in our photograph. You can't really see much difference, so it's okay if they kind of blend into one another, but kind of just for our purposes, I kind of want to know where the separation is, so this will help us. I'm using that ultramarine blue and black. Right down into the water and off. And at the bottom here, I'm just going to kind of go side to side a little bit, kind of blend it down into the water a little bit. Just because there's a little bit of this dark peeking through in the water in places where the rock, you know, is peeking through the waves. So I don't want a solid straight line there. It just makes it harder for us to blend our water on top if we do that. So if you like have this straight line here, then you're really having to fight and to cover it. But if you have it kind of already blended down into your water a little bit, then it's a real natural, easy way to build your waves. Okay, so in this middle part, I am going to add just a tiny bit of white. My paints are getting a little dry, so I'm going to spray them down. I'm going to have a little bit lighter color just kind of under where this white part is. I do want it dark, but it is fairly light, and this will just kind of help us have a little bit less to fight when we're putting on our waves. Okay, and I left this area here. This is going to be that another cliff here, and it's kind of almost brownish, so I'm going to go ahead and get the burnt umber and add that, and just have a little bit of that with that black, whatever's on my brush here. Black and burnt umber. We'll make this one a brown cliff.
That's an interesting word.
What?
Cliff. I've just never thought about it. Is that short for something? Seriously?
I don't know. Don't know.
You can tell what's going on over here. Deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts with Mark. Is Cliff short for anything? Is that about as deep as it gets with you?
Well, you've been married to me for 31 years, so you can answer that question.
Yeah. Yes. The answer is yes. Excuse me. Okay. And then let's do some more brown and black Maybe a little bit more blue. And this one, this big one right here. So each of these has just a slight undertone difference. It's honestly doesn't make that much difference. And I would not do like a huge difference between these. You don't want it to, you know, look too weird. But this just gives me, it's mostly for me because these are all so dark. It just gives me a base to work off of. By the time we get these done, you're not going to notice this difference as much because we're going to have our highlights be mostly the same colors. So they'll all kind of blend in together after a while. All right, so off here, somewhere in there. Okay. Let me get some of that lighter orange color here, just mixing it to have okay, blending that into my water again. Going really dark. And I'm going to use some of this dark, kind of just in here, all this like dark gray. Just going to use it on each one of these to add a little bit of that color to all of them. Okay, so there we go. And honestly, with this being in silhouette like this, you know, this is about all we have to do. We don't have to add a whole lot more to this. We're going to add just a little bit of highlights, but that's about it. We're not having to do a whole lot to this to make it this dramatic lighthouse feeling. So I'm going to mix up a green. I'm using my yellow with a little bit of both of my blues, and I'm getting into this brown black mixture here too. I think this was the black with the blue that we used in the mountain. Just want a color that is going to blend into the hillside a little bit, so I'm going to get some more of that black. I don't want my value to be that off, so that's a little bit too close. So I'm going to add just a little bit of white and a little bit more yellow. We'll see what that does. So I have a dark green and I have kind of a medium green here. And really just the ultramarine blue and yellow over here is going to do kind of a brighter green. That may be what I want. We'll see. Yeah, okay, that works. So we're just going to kind of put it at an angle and just scratch it. I'm using my 3/8 inch blender now. I'm just going to scratch it into this mountainside. And if it's a little too light, then get a little bit of your darker color and put that some of that in over it. We don't have to live with it. If we get it a little too light, we can tone it down real easily. So right in here, I do want kind of some lighter color though. This is really the brightest area on our rocks because it's getting the most light. I'm just scrubbing it kind of sideways here at an angle to get these little grassy parts that are sticking out of the rock, but leaving plenty of this purple in between. That's what makes it look like those cliffs. Okay, let's go and just bring it all the way down. Right now I'm going to get some of the darker color and kind of go in between and just give it a second coat on the purple with this darker green here. Maybe get a little bit of the burnt umber with that darker green, blue. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add a little bit of white. And you do not need a lot of white for this, just a tiniest little bit. So I'm using the blue, a little bit of the green, burnt umber, black, kind of just all the colors just to make a like a mid-tone green, gray. Yeah, there we go. And not using the purple for this one, but I'll probably use some purple over here because we already got purple on this one. So I'm kind of trying to introduce a different tone, some of the different tones that we're using in other places. And I'm just gonna dab and scrape. There's really no right or wrong way of doing this except for just to kind of let it skip around a little bit on your canvas so that it's just picking up here and there. I'm going to clean that off because I'm getting a lot of green still. Okay, getting the burnt umber, a little bit more of the burnt umber and black, and then getting into this blue color here. And I'm just going to blend over. Okay. And most all of this is going to be splashy splash, so I don't have to do a whole lot with this up here. Beastie, what are you doing? Fitzpickle got his summer haircut. He looks really silly. His legs are so skinny. He was such a big fluff ball. Now he just looks like he's like on stilts. I miss the fluffy. I have to say, I did get a little emotional. It was very embarrassing at PepSmart. I was trying not to cry when I saw him. Not gonna lie. Look how skinny he is. He's fluffy. He's like, you're laughing at me. I can tell. Alright, got a little bit of magenta here. We'll just put a little bit of that in there. I need to move quicker here. It's taking a long time just to do these rocks. Looks like this is a Tuesday, you know. Alright.
You said it was going to be quick.
I am going to go quicker here. All right, so picking up some of the pink, and I'm going to use that up here on these rocks. And add a little bit of black to it. And these are kind of longer, so I'm just, and they're closer to us, so we've got more of a contrast. So we can go a little bit brighter on our highlights. As you get closer to you, your colors are going to be more obvious, like contrast, darks and lights are going to be more contrasted. So you'll have brighter brights and darker darks. Thus the black and the lighter colors here on this part. Farther away, colors are a little bit more muted. They're more closer together. Although these aren't that far apart, so you're not seeing that much of a difference. But we can bump it up and kind of play into that naturally occurring phenomenon. Make it work for us. Okay.
So I was thinking, next time you have Fitz groomed, we just take him to some farm that has sheep and just have him do it there with all the other sheep.
I think, yeah.
We'll save some money.
That's pretty much what it looks like they did.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. It'll grow back. That's what I keep telling myself. It'll grow back. All right, let me use some of this dark green up here. Got some green kind of coming down off the hill.
So, how you doing over there?
Doing all right.
Yeah. And hello to everybody out there.
Yes.
We're only 45 minutes into this. We're finally really getting to say hi.
I know, we jumped right in this tonight.
We usually do on
night,
Tuesdays.
go a little faster.
We go. I have her under a deadline.
Yeah, I've got an Oak Island deadline.
That's right. Blame it on them. But we're glad that you're here
Yes.
live, or even if you're watching it in the replay.
Yes.
Glad you found us. Hope you like and subscribe. Do all that good fun stuff.
We do these painting shows live twice a week, usually. And I probably cut back a little bit this summer, but until then, we're going to be doing it Tuesdays and Saturdays, as usual. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
That lets YouTube know that you like our show and want to see more of us.
You really like us.
And it helps our channel too. If you share it and all, like share it on social media or whatever, or if you paint it along, you can tag me and share the video.
When you're visiting friends and family, ask to borrow their iPads and phones and stuff like that, and go to YouTube and
subscribe
to Angel's channel for them.
Subscribe.
Just randomly.
Okay, I'm going to get some of the sky color. So we're using the same colors. Water reflects the sky. It's kind of like acts like a mirror almost. In lighter colors, we'll do that too. So the white foam is going to pick up the colors of the sky as well. So we're going to use that purple and blue, the light ultramarine and the quinacridone here. And I'm just going to make these kind of rivulets that are happening on this mountain right here, this little rock that's coming down here. So there's like little bits of the water kind of running down. There's not a whole lot of it, but there's just enough that that'll make a big difference right there if you do that, I think. And let's just go ahead and give it a little highlight at the top of some of these rocks. Just let this shine a little bit away from the mountain behind it. Okay. I'm barely touching down here, just to get a little bit of color happening on those rocks. All right, so that's about all we're going to do, believe it or not. We're not going to do a whole lot more with our rocks. We've got greens, we've got blues, we've got a little bit of purples in these, some of the pinks. If we want a little bit more, we can kind of tap, get a little bit more of that rock texture in there. But I think we got a pretty good looking rock texture happening. The main thing is just kind of skip around as you do it. Don't press down too hard in any one area. If you're using like a scrubby brush like this, it'll kind of scratch off little areas of paint onto the canvas. It'll come off your brush kind of randomly, and that's what you want with these rocks. And just kind of keep your brush moving in the direction that you want it to go. You kind of have to just sort of go with the flow when you're doing stuff like this, though, and not get too caught up on every little square inch and making sure that this little rock is perfect, and just kind of embrace it as a whole and try to get the feeling as a whole, and the rest of it just kind of let it do what it wants to do, because otherwise you're going to be chasing. It's going to be a lot harder for you to get it just so, this, especially, painting rocks this way, it's just going to be pretty random. So we just say go with it and let it happen. Don't get too fussy when you're painting them. All right, I'm going to clean that out, and I'm going to go back to my Stippler now, and I'm going to get some black and some of my white. I'm going to make a light gray. And then I'm going to get some of my purple from that blue and pink, or I can just pick up some of that light ultramarine blue and mix that in with my gray. And I'm going to use that as my main color for the first part of my stippling here. So I'm going to do this back rock first, and it's actually going all the way up to here. So it's doing this zigzag thing. It's crashing up against this rock and spraying, but then there's kind of a bright area right along that rock right there of the spray, and then it goes up and down right here, and it sprays up against this. And I'm using this lighter kind of blue just to kind of tap in some of the stuff that's in the back. I want to start with kind of a lighter or darker color first, and that way we're getting some depth to our waves. Otherwise we would just end up with a big white blob, right? So we want to have a little bit of depth and movement to the wave. So we're going to start out with this kind of a medium tone gray, medium to dark. And I'm not going solid with this either. I'm leaving just a little bit of that background color showing, but I'm just going to try to map out sort of my main areas of this spray. It's going to go out here. It's going to go out there. And don't get too, don't draw it in too heavy right now. We're just kind of trying to mainly get an idea of where we're going to go with it, with the following layers. So using the tip of the brush helps kind of control where it's going to. Okay, so, but mainly I just want to work on this area here and get this area with some color. I'm going to get a little bit more of that darker black, maybe a little bit of purple. And go back in with some of that. Okay, so there. And then let's go ahead and tap in just a little bit down here. And again, this is the spray that is underneath all the rest of the spray. So there's a lot of spray that's going to be on top of this. But this is that kind of shadow area of the spray that you're seeing. So we'll leave this and we'll put that brighter stuff kind of around it. See how it's making that weird kind of color, like semicircle thing? I don't want that, so I'm gonna blend out that. I don't want a pattern happening, so just blend out any kind of patterns that you're seeing. That looks good. Okay. I was off camera there. Alrighty, let me get my Filbert, and I'm gonna kill an ant real quick. There we go. Oops, not that color. Get my Phthalo blue and burnt sienna color, that ocean color down here. I'm gonna add a little bit more to that in the dark areas. Just side to side here. There is a far distant mountain or something back here. I'm going to go ahead and add, let's go ahead and add some of this gray to it. And do that right here. Way out there. Okay, and then I can add a little bit of the darker side to side here. Now I am going to do part of this with the brush. I'm going to get a little bit of the white here, a little bit of my pink. Just mix those together, the magenta. Mix the white and the magenta with this blue that I've got on my brush. And I'm going to flick it up and just start the spray. So I'm just kind of starting where I'm going to put this spray. And then right up against the seashore, there's like a little area that is just little dabs. Lighter, more gentle little wave there. But then there's some areas up in here that are flicking up. These are all kind of going in different directions, so I'm just kind of trying to add a little bit of movement to my water here. Leaving a little bit of that dark color, but just adding, rocking it side to side, adding some movement to my waves. And bringing it up into here where it's going to start crashing. And so I want a lighter area right up in through here in front of this rock here. And then there's another one right here. There's a little bit of that ocean crusting up on these rocks right here. Okay, so I would say that this is probably going to be the hardest part of it. So just kind of get a rhythm for that. It's this rocking side to side motion that you're going to want to do. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Most of this is going to be covered with a lot of spray and different things, so it doesn't have to be just so, you know. I would just practice it. But mainly I just want a kind of the start of this blend between the rock and the ocean here, so that I have a place to go with the waves. All right, I'm going to start with the Zinc White now. It's fluid. It's going to give me more kind of see-through-ish color. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of this orange here. And I've switched to a Deerfoot Stippler, the 3/8 inch Deerfoot Stippler. And I'm going to get this one right here that is kind of my brightest part of the wave right here. Just tapping, leaving some of that blue. This orange may be a little too, I don't know, we'll see. Because I'm seeing a lot of pink in the waves. Just using the very tip of my brush. Now we're going to do most of the rest of this with the splatter, but there's parts of it like this where I wanted it to be a little bit more strategic. Yeah, I think it needs to be more pink. I'm looking at the reference here. I think it needs to be a little bit more pink, so I'm going to just add that pink to that. And the Zinc White is transparent, so it'll give it a little bit softer look than the titanium white. So just going over that orange, just going to change the tone of that wave a little bit. Okay, that's good. I don't want to get too solid right there, so I want to kind of hold back here, leave myself room to work other colors and things happening. Okay, toward the bottom, just blend it out into the water, kind of pulling a little bit so that it's got a little bit of movement. Right, I'm happy with that. I'm going to get a little bit more of my brighter white, a little bit of the blue. And this time I'm going to kind of wiggle as I do this so that I'm getting this kind of uneven swirling happening right up against the rocks on this side. Because these ones are kind of crashing in different directions. Go ahead and tap again out. A lot of tapping. Take your time. I think that's one thing that people kind of rush and they put too much on too fast, and it's easier to put it on than it is to, pull back and take it off. Once it's on there, it's pretty much on. So take your time as you're covering these dark areas, just to kind of.
It's kind of the same principle for my waistline.
It's easier to put it on than take it off.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
So take your time, think about it.
Do you really want that cupcake?
Do you really need 6 Oreos? Double stuff? The answer to that question last night was yes. Yes, I do.
And your waistline today is like,
How many steps is a double stuffed Oreo cookie? I need to find that out.
Can you Google that?
How far do I have to
Somebody
walk
can Google that.
to get rid of that?
Yes, exactly. So, okay.
Well, I mean,
Slowly building up these. What?
Sorry, I was just going to say, if they made them taste like raw celery or carrots, then I would eat them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Their fault.
It's Oreo's fault. I think I have a case against them. You make them yummy.
Made them too yummy. Okay, so now we're at the point where we need to start splattering. I'm going to get my toothbrush here, and I'm going to put a glove on because I'm smart like that. Just remembered. Because I have my pretty nails, I do not want to have to do them again this week. Maybe. All right, I'm going to get some white. A little bit of the titanium white with my zinc white here, but I want it very fluid. Let's go ahead and get just a tiniest little bit of pink. Okay, so I'm gonna direct the flow, pointing it, I'm holding it in my fist, I'm pointing my thumb over it, I'm gonna be pulling it back this way, and the paint is gonna go in the opposite direction that I'm pulling my thumb. So I'm pulling my thumb this way, it's gonna go that way, straight off there. So if I'm pointing my brush like this, it's gonna go this way. So I have to turn my wrists or my canvas so that the tip of it is pointing down where I want that paint to go. Right? And the thing with this is, the nice thing is, what you can do is, once you get kind of your first layer on here, you can let it set a minute, and then you can use a paper towel over it and kind of take off some of the extra so that it's not as obvious, and then do it again. So that's my dog scratching at the window or the door.
Dave says that you can make pew 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 sounds also when you're doing it.
It makes it better. Pew pew pew. Ah, that is better, Dave. Thanks. I like it. It's hilarious. Pew pew pew.
And hopefully you're not a stormtrooper, or else you'd be missing the canvas completely.
True that. True that. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit brighter white for this part here. So I've got kind of the more faded white back there, and then there's kind of a little bit of a separation from that really bright part right here. We've got another set of waves that comes along that rock. And then I just want to splatter the whole thing kind of all up and down here. The closer I get to it, the more concentrated it will be, so you'll get kind of more of a concentrated area of color in one little area. And then if I move it farther away, I'll get a more of a open spray. Need some up against the rock over here. So, and I'm also going to do like this so that I'm protecting this rock right here. I'm going to do it right up against that. I'm getting it all over my finger here. I was trying to protect, but there we go. And then I can dab off where I don't want it. Right there, so it looks like it's behind that cliff. Right there. And just use my glove to kind of tap it off. Okay. And it's up to you whether you find the toothpick, or I'm sorry, the toothbrush or the fan brush easier. You can try both and see which, seems to work better for you. I'm trying to get these kind of in and out zigzags here, so just kind of practicing trying to get some movement with these so that they look like kind of directional. And again, you can use my paper towel and wipe off any of these that get in places where I don't want them to be. Or I can go back over it and with paint too, if I need to. So you can see how, I was saying that the water doesn't matter that much. If you get an area where you really don't like it, just throw a wave over it. I mean, there's really not it's pretty easy.
Right, because every wave is going to look different.
Right.
Every crashing, so
that's very true. Yeah.
It's going to be in the same general area, but you don't.
Exactly.
We're not mimicking something that's absolute in nature.
Right. Right. And I kind of lost my cliff that's right here, but that's all right. Okay, I think that's good. I'm pretty happy with that. I kind of got him a little bit farther over than I intended for it to go, but it's, I was splattering, so I get a pass. It's too fun. All right, so there we go. not too bad. I really think that this is definitely doable, and you could stop right there if you wanted to. You know, you could maybe add a little bit more detail to your cliff and call it a day. And I think it's, you know, already a really pretty painting. One thing that you can do on here, this is dry. You can go back and kind of glaze over some of these areas if we get too much of the color in an area. So like say I wanted to bring out that cliff a little bit, I could kind of glaze over this area and pull that cliff out a little bit and push those waves back, and it's just kind of basically shading the wave a little bit. And you can shade on this all you want, you know, and do multiple layers that way if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of this black and just kind of cover up some of these ones that got in areas where I didn't want them to be. Add some shadows to my rock there. There we go. All right. Pretty fun. Let's draw in our lighthouse and I'll be done. Not too bad. We made good time in that, I think. We've got a few trees up here, so let's go ahead and do those really quickly. I'm gonna use this green if I've got any. No, I don't. Let's mix the... Well, let's draw first. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Let's draw first. So I'm gonna use a charcoal pencil here. And our lighthouse is kind of right in this spot. It's sort of halfway on this point, and it angles up like that. Make sure that you do kind of a vertical line here. Make sure that that is perfectly vertical, and then that way you know that your lighthouse is... This one's going to be longer because it's setting on an angle, so the tendency is to make your lighthouse square up to whatever it's on, and then you'll end up with a crooked lighthouse. So just make sure you do kind of a vertical line here when you're drawing, or kind of hold your finger across it so that you're not seeing that, because the tendency is to kind of naturally lean into the curve. Okay, so right in there is top, round it out, and there's a little hat, and then it comes down, and then it's got a little walkway, and then another little area, it comes down, and another little walkway, and then a couple of stripes, or just one stripe really, one right there. It looks like a couple because there's this one is... These are pretty equal distance. This stripe and this area here is about the same width, so just kind of keep that in mind when you do it. Something like that. It looks like it's crooked, but let me check my T-square here, make sure I'm getting them straight. Oh, he looks right. We can bring him over just a little bit. Okay. And then there's a little, like, I don't know, satellite station or something here, because it's got like a little thing, antenna radar thing right there, little box. And then there's a little house off the side, or shed or something, and it just angles up like that and into the side of the lighthouse, and the top of the roof is about even with that first stripe there. All right, let's paint it in. Well, let's do our trees first though, because they're kind of behind it. Well, no, actually, yeah, let's do the trees. All right. I'm gonna get burnt umber and ultramarine blue and some yellow. And that's gonna be our pine green. I'm gonna add a little bit of purple to it. darken it up a little bit. And then this pine tree is setting right here. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start his central stem. These all look like they're angled because my canvas is at an angle. So they're square to the canvas. So it looks like it's angled, but it's not. It's straight up and down here. Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, what? Am I doing this wrong? But no, it's just the angle of the camera. So sorry, watching. I'm sure it looks weird. All right, I'm just going to rock it side to side. I'm using the 20-aught fan, so there's a little baby fan brush. Since this is such a small tree here, you could probably use just a round brush and just do dots. If you don't have one of these, it would take a little bit longer, but you could do it. Or even your angle brush, and just use it and do your little dots. This is the same color as my mountain just about, so it's just blending into it really nicely. I'm not having any issues with it looking like it's pasted on, but if it does look different, you know, you can just make sure that you don't go over the top of your color, but it should really kind of just blend in right there. And then there's another tree that's kind of right in here, and it goes up to, yeah, right in there. Okay, that's about right. And it's kind of looks like it kind of broke off at the top, so it's like really wide at the base. So I'm just going to kind of pretend like it didn't get broken and just make it a smaller tree. So it kind of angles up a little bit at first, and then as it comes down to the middle, it sort of angles. They start to come out to the side and angle down a little bit. And just leave plenty of room in between. That's, I think, the key to the pine trees, is not to get them too densely packed, because they have a lot of space between the branches. Just make sure that you're kind of going off this main branch and leaving some room for them to have those branches grow off the sides.
Kind of like between my ears.
What is?
The pine trees. They have a lot of space. They have a lot of space between.
Leave a lot of space. Yes. True that.
Well, you're agreeing a lot with that. Very quickly, too.
I'm going to add a little bit of the blue. These ones back here are kind of faded a little bit, so maybe a little bit of that sky blue color in there. Light ultramarine blue. He lives right up there. He goes pretty high. It's a big boy. It's higher even than the lighthouse there. Just tapping side to side. And the key, I think, with the fan brush is just really kind of loading it up fairly thick so that you don't have to tap very hard. And then that just lets the kind of texture of the brush do the work for you. Have your paint fluid enough that's coming off easily. And then there's one more. Let's do kind of in between. And I'm going to go a little bit darker here, just in this part in the middle. darken up the centers of these a little bit. And the outer part's a little bit faded, but maybe the middle is a little bit darker. We also did pine trees in one of the series, the Foggy Lake video that we did. So, all right, there we go. All right, I got 20 minutes to make a lighthouse. I can do it.
So you can simplify it by just doing like a tank silhouette. That'll be done. Especially if you have kind of like an army themed house. You want to put this in. And since there's no seashells in this, it technically doesn't have to go in the bathroom.
That's true.
So I can go anywhere in the house. So that's a safe.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know, hon.
I'm here to help.
Doubtful. Debatable. All right.
Make camera work. Got it.
Adding the blue sky color. This is a white lighthouse, obviously, but it is picking up the colors around it, just like all white objects do. So it's going to be influenced by the colors of the sky. So I'm going to paint my white areas with the purple blue color first. And then I'm going to go in with my black. It's actually, I kind of drew this. It's actually going to curve down slightly. Since we're looking up at it, this stripe is not going to look straight across. It's going to curve up slightly. So somewhere in there like that. Okay. And then it is wider at the bottom. I didn't make it quite as wide as it probably could go here at the base. So I'm going to widen it out just a little bit at the bottom. Angle out those sides. And I'm adding some of that gray to this side. This is our shadow side of the lighthouse. So you can kind of get your shadow just by pulling from this side in and lifting. And then I'm going to get my black here and go over this again and do the same thing with it. Okay. I'm gonna tap across. That rail goes a little wider, and then my middle part of the lighthouse here. Looking at it, making sure I'm getting it straight here. Bring it out a little bit more right there. Just rounding it out by kind of dirtying it up, making that shadow on that side. And giving it that curve right there. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and go across here. Next little bit. making sure I'm getting these straight. And then I'm going to make the box for my lighthouse, just tapping like that. And then I need to switch my brushes. This one's not going to do the small parts for me. So I'm going to get my little round number 1. Get more, and I'm going to get a little bit of this light blue because I'm seeing some of the blue sky affecting that dark on the top. So I'm going to get a little bit of that color, that gray. Add that to the top and give him a little hat. Just checking, always checking again to make sure I'm getting him straight. I think we're doing okay. Giving him a little point and a little round ball at the top. And then I'm going to do this part dark. And get a little bit of this gray and put it inside here. Pressing that brush flat so that I've got some good tiny lines. Do some little lines right there. Do some lines just some indication of some railings or something. This brush is a little too big, but I'm being lazy, so I don't want to have to clean another brush. Can switch to a liner for this. I really got it a little too thick right there. Let me see if I can get that off.
That's what we call cost-benefit analysis. Is the effort worth the return?
There you go. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to go a little bit dark along this side just to add a little bit more of that dark line and go all the way down from the just make a nice line. Now, if it looks outlined too much, you can get some of that gray and kind of blend it out a little bit. But I want it nice and dark right along that edge. There. That's what gives it that rounded look. Okay, let's get a little bit of the magenta with my black. And maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. This roof of this guy has got a little bit of red, but it's so dark you can't really tell, so it's just kind of blending in. I'm just hinting at the dark red color it is.
I got a question.
Uh-huh.
So the person wants to clarify that the lighthouse is pale in color and it is being influenced by the surrounding like lights and stuff.
Yes, the white in the lighthouse is picking up the colors in the sky. So it's because of that, it's going to look more pink than it would. It's not going to be white. And you look at it in this, it looks perfectly fine. You would never know that it's pink. But if we made it white, it would look out of place because it wouldn't go with. It's not the atmospheric, the light that's hitting it is not making it white. It's not bright enough. It's only getting those purples and pink glows, so that's the only colors that it can reflect, really. Now, the light in it is white, and it's got a little bit of yellow even, but it's creating its own light, you know. It's not reflected. So let me get a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow here before I forget to do this. I'm going to put my little light right there. I'll start with that orange, and I'm going to get my white and yellow here. And put a really bright white right there. Okay, and then I'm going to get my blue, and this area is a little bit darker, So this is kind of more of that blue-gray. Get a little bit of the white. Come on. My paints are starting to get sticky, so they're not wanting to move around for me. Get a little bit of the pink. Give this a little bit more highlight here. And we can put a little bit of the orange on our lighthouse. That'll kind of brighten it up a slight bit, so we can get a little bit of that orange color and with my white, because that's in our clouds, so we can use that on this side to kind of give it a little bit of brightness right here where the light might be hitting it. Getting that dark. And then getting some black here. I'm just flatten my brush out a little bit and create some little doors or windows or something, whatever these are. Right there. And then our little hut here. There's other things on the mountain, but there's like a fence and some other things, but I just decided to kind of narrow it down to the most the most useful things. Or you could leave any of this out that you wanted to, though. If you don't want this little thing here. I contemplated leaving this part out, but it's in the picture, so I don't know,
Yeah, again, they can add more trees if they wanted to practice, or
Right.
leave the lighthouse off, as you suggested earlier. Mm-hmm. Whatever they want to do to make their painting theirs.
Exactly. And there's all kinds of little doohickeys in here, so I'm just going to dab. I got a dark outline to it. And there's a little... Okay, this is where you really do need a liner brush, but I'm going to try it.
You can do it.
All kinds of little doohickeys up here. All right, so there we go. There's a little hut, little lighthouse. Oh, it turned out good. I like it. Mm-hmm. This part, a lot of fun. I think it's just a matter of, taking in steps and making sure that you're leaving these dark areas. I think that that's the main thing that, I think maybe the takeaway is just making sure that you've got some of that dark in there just to give your cliffs a little bit of contrast. I'm going to go ahead and try to put back that cliff in here. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it in here the way I want it, but I'm going to try to glaze just a little bit of it in here. Yeah. I'm just rubbing it in here.
So
There we go.
you got a little technical on everybody there.
What?
Can you explain to the non-North American people what doohickeys are? and that's a real statement. It's not for me. It's a real.
That's hilarious. Doohickeys are little. What are they? I don't know.
Bits
They're
and
like
bobs.
Thingamajigs. They're
It's
bits
just
and
random
bobs.
things that you don't know the name of.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
Just,
Yeah.
there's
it's
no
just made up
distinguishable
name
traits.
yeah. Exactly. Yes. That's it. It's just a made up kind of thingamajig. A thing. Is that what the word they were asking, or what did I say? Doohickey. No, I said doohickey. Yeah, it's a thingamajig. If you know what that means, and if you don't, it's bits and bobs. I think that's the English version. Just little things that we don't know what they do, but they're they're there. So things that I don't know the names of, little bits. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit. What? Go ahead. No, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. I'm gonna go a little bit darker with my cliff right there.
We had a super chat this evening.
Oh, yay!
And the super chat this evening was from Patty. And she says, another inspiring tutorial, exclamation point, exclamation point.
Yay! I'm glad you liked it, Patty.
Thank you so much, Patty. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your
It's
donation.
awesome.
That was really sweet.
Yes.
All right, I put back in that cliff there, and I'm just gonna flick a little bit of color over the border there. Just that didn't need to do. Don't worry about it. It was just me being picky there. You don't need to do that part. I do this to myself.
Somebody said their boss is a doohickey.
You don't know what they do. I like it. I like it. We think we've all had bosses like that.
I need to check to see if the person works for me.
That's hilarious. That would be so funny. You do have a few people that work for you. We joke the more people that Mark gets, working for him, the more we think of that Saturday Night Live.
It's good, yeah, but
What was it? What is the title of it?
it was a dinner table. I don't know.
I think it's called Dysfunctional Thanksgiving or something like that. Dysfunctional Family Thanksgiving, and yeah, the dad yells.
But the good thing is I don't have anybody working for me anymore.
Car. Oh, you don't?
No.
Ooh.
It's nice.
See, I should know this thing.
You realize I got a new position last fall, right?
I did.
Okay.
If you mention that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's why you're coming home at a more normal time.
Right.
Which is nice. Okay, I'm going back in and just brightening up some of these areas and this surf, mainly just kind of in the brightest spots, just in the middle kind of here. I kind of added a little bit brighter right there. And I can kind of tap in if I want to kind of make a little bit more of a splash shape there, kind of that zigzaggy. I'm just using kind of the glaze with that white and going over some of those areas and just adding a little bit brighter color where I want those splashy parts to be coming out. You may not want to do that or have to do that. It's up to you, but I don't know if I like it or not. Kind of getting a little bit picky at this point. Get a little bit of white here.
You're using a blender right now?
Yeah, I'm using the blender to...
Looks like about a 3/8 inch blender.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to stop. I think I'm making it worse rather than better.
Voila.
I say I'm going to stop, and then
And she just keeps on tapping.
keeps on going. Okay, there we go. I really am going to stop now. All right. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us again today. We really enjoyed painting for you. And yeah, if you want to sign up for the traceable for this one, we've got it available on patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. It is $2 a month
In 2021.
for unlimited, for unlimited traceables. And we will be doing our bonus video this weekend. So I don't know if I don't think I have the bonus.
Picture ready.
Well, yeah, actually, I think I do. Actually,
Okay,
you
let
want
me
to pop
see.
that up
Let
there?
me see what I can do here. Hold on a second.
A little bit more white along the shoreline there.
Oops. Hide that. And
Yeah, that's what we're painting
you can see
on Saturday. On Sunday, I mean. Yeah, for our bonus video for the $5 level on Patreon. So we're going to be doing that kind of classical style floral that you kind of see sometimes in museums, you know, those old classic still life vases with flowers. So that'll be our bonus video, and hopefully we'll be able to do it in less than 6 hours.
Yes, let's hope.
Or Mark maybe revolting. Jumping ship.
Maybe.
Yeah, no. We usually go about 4 or 5 hours. That's kind of the norm. So I think we should be able to do it. It's going to be a fun one, though. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy the flowers, so that'll be a really fun, detailed one to do.
And so
Ooh,
watching.
look at, I got a bunch of.
Yeah, I see it up in the trees.
Looks like
So as Angela's doing this, it reminds what we have said in the past, that when you're finished with the painting, it's always good to step away,
right,
come back the next day,
right.
put it up in different areas in the house if you want to, look at it and see into different light and different things like that, so you can make any adjustments and changes before you varnish it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that I probably could have even gone a little bit brighter with my sky, even though it looked like really bright when I did it. Now that we've got everything else on, I can see that, you know, I could have probably gone a little bit more of that bright pink in there too. So you could add a little bit more of that at some point. And you can always glaze over this. So, you know, if I get this done and I decide, you know, my water just looks a little too white, I can always go back over it with a little bit of glaze. And my magenta, I can show you what that looks like. A little bit of magenta, a little bit of glaze. And you can use like the zinc white to even make it kind of more transparent, because that, or lighter, you know, a lighter pink tone. Because the zinc, the magenta is so saturated, it will really, you know, really tint strongly. So make sure that you're using a lot of your glaze and just a little bit of the color. And you can go back over and tint your areas. You know, you may not have to do it everywhere, but, you know, you can kind of tint some of these areas where you think that, okay, you know, I think I want a little bit more pink to that, or I need my sky a little bit more pink. And you don't have to paint over the entire thing again, especially these kind of small things like the color, you know, color shifts are very easy to implement. Let me go ahead and do a little bit on the clouds too while we're talking about it. This is a good lesson for the beginners too. We used a little bit of glazing with the cat video when we added the dark glaze, you know, to the cat edges when we did that a couple weeks ago. But here, just adding a little bit more of this brighter pink into our sky. And using kind of a larger brush helps, you know, so that you can kind of do it quickly. I would say it's probably better to do glazing before you were to do, you know, your details. But in this case, we can kind of work around our lighthouse and things, and do the little bit of the pink in the sky. Here, a little bit more pink glow. And just work quickly and make sure that you're not leaving streaks. So just as you work, work out those streaks. And put it on thinly so that you have time for it to put it on thinly so that you don't get it on too thickly. I don't know what that meant, what I'm trying to say. So you don't cover too much of your background. You want it mostly glazed. So, sorry, I'm thinking of something else in the middle of my sentence. It's never a good idea. Okay, there we go. What? Oh, another super chat right at the end there. Sweet.
Yeah, you keep hitting, then get another super chat. This one's from Michael. It says, "Keep up the great work and teaching. Aww. I have learned so much from both of you."
Thank you, Michael. Wow. I'm so glad to hear that.
Now I'm wondering what he's learned from me. It might not be a good thing. But thanks, Michael.
You may not want to know.
Yeah. You might want to forget that part. Any facts I say you might want to check.
Do. Double check your facts there, Michael. I'm going to add just a little bit more to my cliff face, and then we're going to be done. All right, there we go. Hey, right, I really love this one. I mean, you would never know this. It only took us an hour and 45 minutes. It's definitely doable. I definitely think that this is beginner friendly. As much as it looks, daunting, it's a lot of splattering. I think if you take this in steps like I did and do it, the way that I did it, I really feel like you can do it. The rocks were really super simple. There's a lot of detail in the lighthouse. Again, you can leave that off. We've already done the trees. We've already done some clouds like this, so those aren't too difficult. Yeah, I think this is one I would try. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And sign up for my newsletter on thinkfulart.com. We send those out every Friday, and it just helps us be able to let you know what we've got coming up and make sure that you don't miss any of our videos or special events and things like that. All right, thanks guys. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Saturday. Thanks for watching. Bye.